Hey there guys, it's Ben here from GameRVW.com, and this video is going to be the first of many new weekly news roundups we're going to be doing on the channel. So without any further ado, let's have a look at this week's stories. So first up, we've got the announcement of the Nintendo Switch Lite, which is going to be joining us on the 20th of September of 2019. This is kind of an interesting one actually. So the Switch Lite is essentially a purely handheld version of the Switch, so you could almost think of it as a successor to the 2DS, although it does bear the name of Switch. So the Switch Lite does lose some functionality over its kind of original iteration, so you do lose the ability to connect to a TV, so this is purely a handheld device as Nintendo put it. It's got built-in controls rather than the detachable blue and red Joy-Con controllers we're used to seeing, so they are going to be built-in controls. You don't have that detachability option either, and you also lose the rumble and the IR motion camera. So it will support any Switch game that can be played in handheld mode, so if you look on the back of the box of any Switch title, it will tell you, it's kind of a little symbol, whether or not it can be played in handheld. However, some of the games such as Super Mario Party and 1-2 Switch are going to require you to connect Joy-Con controllers to the Switch Lite in order for you to be able to play them. So you can still connect those Joy-Con controllers, which will also be required for some of the games to operate on a Switch Lite. Some of the games that can be played in handheld mode, if you want, you can connect a pair of Joy-Con controllers if you prefer using those over the kind of fixed built-in control system. So you do lose a bit of functionality, but you do have a bit of an advantage with the Lite in terms of price, because it's only $200 Nintendo have announced, which is $100 less than the recommended selling price of the original console, so you do save a bit of money. So this is kind of an odd one. There's a lot of speculation about the potential market for the Lite, which I personally kind of agree with. I'm very much in the skeptical camp with this. If you already own a Switch, you don't really have any reason to buy the Lite, because there's no major hardware differences, and the regular console, even as a handheld, has more functionality because you have the detachability of the controllers, and you can put it in kind of a flip up mode, you can put it on its stand and play with the controllers kind of leaning back separately. Even as kind of as a handheld, the original Switch still has an advantage over the Switch Lite. So the only market I can really think of that this will appeal to are those who don't own a Switch, but maybe they're in a PC or a console that they would rather play with at home, but they're in the market for something purely handheld, but they're kind of put off by the Switch's price tag, so they're going for a Switch Lite because that's just the handheld that they want, and it's a bit cheaper than the original console. However, even in regards to this, if you don't buy the separate Joy-Con controllers, you're limited by certain games. Certain games that I've mentioned you can't play at all, some of them will have more limited functionality. But if you then want to play the handheld with the Joy-Con controllers, you have to buy a separate pair of Joy-Con controllers, which offsets almost the entirety of the saving you get to begin with. So maybe things will pan out a bit differently than I imagine. However, I'm very skeptical that this is going to have any major sort of success. So next up, we've got the recent controversy surrounding the online key reseller G2A. So some tweets were made by someone called Thomas Faust, who goes by the Twitter handle @SomeIndieGames, and apologies Thomas if I'm pronouncing your surname incorrectly, where he shows an email he's received from someone called Adrian from G2A. Adrian asks if he's going to publish an article that they've written on his website, but without disclosing any sponsorship or association with G2A. The tweets are being shown on the screen now and available to view online as well. They haven't been deleted, so you can still go and look at these as of the time of making this video. The key quote here is, "We have written an unbiased article about how selling stolen keys on gaming marketplaces is pretty much impossible, and we want to publish it on your website without being marked as sponsored or marked as associated with G2A. G2A then responded to Thomas's tweet, which confirmed that the email was real and that it was also sent to 9 other media outlets, but claims that an employee of the company sent the messages out without any authorization from G2A, and that the employee would face strict consequences. This is actually the second piece of bad publicity G2A's had to deal with recently, as a number of developers who were tired of G2A's practices said they would rather players pirated their games rather than get them through G2A. So this is a pretty bad situation for G2A to be in. It's one thing to have developers state publicly that they would rather you pirate their games than buy them off G2A, but then having to admit that one of your employees sent an email to 10 different media outlets trying to get them to publish an article that was written internally without disclosing any kind of link to G2A is a pretty sad state of affairs. There's no word on yet if there will be any legal ramifications for G2A on this, but it's a good thing that this was posted publicly, as that way people will at least be aware that this sort of thing is happening. It's also drawn more light on the developers asking people not to buy G2A, so hopefully we'll see some consumers making some more informed decisions when it comes to games. So next up, we've got Amazon Game Studios, who are announcing they'll be working on the new Lord of the Rings MMO. So there was a tweet from the Amazon Game Studios Twitter page saying that they were working on a new free-to-play MMO that will be available on consoles and PC. So the game was actually originally announced back in 2018 by Athlon Games, who are owned by Leu, apologies if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, who own Athlon Games, who are now working with Amazon Game Studios to make the new Lord of the Rings free-to-play MMO. So the game's going to follow the original books rather than the films, and Amazon have stated that this is going to be completely separate from their Lord of the Rings TV series, so the two aren't directly linked, although I suppose the possibility for either one is going to be good for them. The TV series is going to be set during the Second Age, so there's no direct link there. No release date yet, and very little detail. We don't actually really have a name for this one either, so it's going to be probably a long time before we get anything that's concrete, but it's probably worth keeping an eye on. It's also interesting to note that this MMO is going to be going up directly against Lord of the Rings Online, which is still going, at least as of the time of this video. I don't know what's going to happen in the near future, but it is still going at the moment and is also free to play. So the game at Amazon Game Studios is going to be made by the same development team that are making Amazon's other MMO, which is New World, and that team contains quite a few members who have got experience with other big online titles, which include World of Warcraft. So they've got some experienced hands behind this, so hopefully them making both isn't going to cause any issues with either one, and hopefully this might turn out to be a good game, but we'll have to just watch this space on that one. Finally, we've got news that Creative Assembly could be working on a new hero shooter. This comes from the company's careers section of their website, where they're advertising for a lead hero designer to work on a brand new and exciting first-person tactical shooter IP. Within the essential knowledge, skill and experience section, any potential applicant should have a detailed understanding of hero and class-based shooters. The description also makes reference to monetization and rewards, which are a feature of almost every title in this genre. Hero shooters are very popular when they're done well, as the popularity of Overwatch, Apex Legends and even Team Fortress 2 still demonstrate. But the market is a difficult one to break into, so if it turns out that Creative Assembly are working on a title to rival these games, it will be interesting to see whether or not it's going to sink or swim. So that is the end of this week's roundup. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you want to see our other content, we've got other videos on the YouTube channel, and check out our main website as well, and I will see you next week.